or a part of any formula for success. And I will tell you, it's one thing to take a photo op at a school. Why don't you go in and teach a class of 30 students if you really want to find out what it's like? If you really want to see what the issues are, go to the school, not as a photo op, not to bring props, but to go to that school and understand what's going on in that school. Do it and find out what teachers are going through. A recent report by New Mexico Voices for Children showed that cuts to education have been among the deepest in the country since 2011. Another list we don't want to be on. While the governor's budget returns some money to education, little of this new money will end up in our classroom where it belongs. We propose a different direction that protects a parent's right to have a voice in their children's education and a teacher's opportunity to teach to the student, not to the test. That's why in previous years, we have resisted plans to let out-of-state consultants and appointed political bureaucrats interject their judgment for that of a parent's and or the professional educator. We also know that our children can't succeed if they are too sick to learn. Today, more than 150,000 New Mexicans, including 50,000 children, go without affordable access to the most basic health care. But last week, and today the governor mentioned it in the State of the State, the governor took an important step toward closing that gap by granting conditional approval for an expansion of Medicaid to cover our poorest neighbors. And I congratulate the governor for doing that. It was the right thing for her to do. But if the federal government doesn't live up to their guarantee, the state of New Mexico should, because those 150 and 50,000 children are still going to be without health care, and we need to make sure they get that health care. In addition to ensuring access to health care for our most vulnerable neighbors, the new health care jobs generated are equivalent to adding an entirely new national lab. Not an insignificant fact as federal investment in our labs continue to shrink. I was glad to hear the governor come out and say she's going to go out and help to try to keep those jobs here. Well, Governor, I think you should have done it a while back. We should have had, and we should have been working on it before the cuts started and making sure that our voice was heard through our delegation, whether they be Republicans or Democrats. But again, those who will rely on Medicaid cannot count on conditional health care, nor can the new health care workers we will train. The federal government has made a commitment to fund the expansion, and we should do the same for those who will soon count on it. The political climate in Santa Fe today is much different than 101 years ago. Though Republicans and Democrats had spent decades fighting over statehood, once achieved, the Republican legislature and Democratic governor came together to do what was right for the new New Mexico. New Mexico has grown impatient, or New Mexicans have grown impatient, with partisan battles, both in Washington and in Santa Fe. Last year was one of the least productive years in our state's history in terms of 77 bills just being passed. And out of those 77 bills, 13 were vetoed. New Mexico has spent the past 2 years marred down in a political back and forth that has also enveloped Washington. Predictably, the results are the same. I challenge the governor on her right side, and you all know what that right side is, to set aside this partisan attitude and move quickly to put New Mexicans back to work. For 2 years, and it was mentioned in the State of the State today, there have been numerous attempts to compromise to reform our driver's license system. No doubt there are those who will continue to prefer playing politics with the issue instead of fixing it. Democrats are not among them and will once again offer a hand in compromise to resolve the issue. While many have argued for years that New Mexico was alone, or nearly so, in issuing licenses to non-citizens, the tide has turned, in no small part to the DREAM Act type legislation by President Obama, permitting undocumented children to come out of the shadow without fear of deportation to a country they have never known. To date, at least a half dozen states have announced plans to do so, and many more are considering it. It is time to settle this issue in New Mexico once and for all, and Democrats are prepared to do this. Last year, I will tell you, and before I make this statement, I will tell you I asked the gentleman if I could make this statement. Last year, Representative Nunes, who is no longer here, had agreed that the compromise bill from the Senate was the right direction to go. He made a commitment to go tell the governor that he thought it was the right way to go. When he came back down from the governor's office, he could not continue to support the compromise bill. But he knew it was the right thing to do. He knew it was a way to get this over with once and for all. I love the attitude of the governor to say she wants to work together. Great attitude, but actions speak louder than words. Focusing on divisive wedge issues does nothing to address the serious challenges we face, including job creation, pension solvency, and school safety. The heroic sacrifices of educators in Newtown can never be repaid, but it shows just why no investment in education yields bad returns. But our teachers should never be asked to be soldiers in our schools. Our state has a proud heritage of gun ownership, but that heritage has always included a duty for those who choose to own a firearm to do so responsibly. There will no doubt be spirited debate on this issue in the coming weeks, and there are some common sense proposals which deserve consideration by those on both sides of the issue. But each conversation should begin and end with a consideration for how it will prevent the tragedies we have seen in Aurora, Virginia Tech, and now Newtown from occurring in Las Lunas, JAL, or New Mexico State University. Finally, no one goes into public service with the goal of getting rich. However, no one should expect that their salaries will decrease. For the last 5 years, public servants have suffered cuts in their take-home pay to balance the budget. Now, as we recover, we need to stop that trend. Our teachers have also answered our call to help ride out the economic downturn. It is not too much to expect that teachers who taught and tended to our children for 25 or 30 years will receive the pension we promised them when we first signed that. That was the contract, and we have a responsibility to live up to that contract. That's why we will make pension solvency a top priority in this legislature for all our public servants, be they educators who teach our children, police officers who protect our homes, or license clerks at the MVD office. That first governor, speaking in his first inaugural address 101 years ago, said this of the politics of the time and of the times to come. As we look into the future, bright hopes of promise appear to some, and dark forebodings may dim the horizon of others. The past is history. The present is the dawn of the future. It is to the future we look, and that future we will be what we make it. We could not agree more that the present is the dawn of the future. Like our predecessors a century before us, we have weathered hard times and are ready for a more prosperous future. Where some see a bleak future for growth and revitalization, we as Democrats see a chance to reinvest in our middle class and our main streets. When our grandchildren's children look back on us 100 years from now, let us be sure that they see this year as the one where we, the Democrats, recommitted to the vision of fair taxes, equal opportunity, and strong public education on which our state was founded a century ago. Thank you very much, and I appreciate you all being here. You know, having said all of that, I have to get back to the floor, and if you have questions, Representative Martinez, Speaker Martinez is certainly here to answer any of those questions.
Senator, can you react to the President Pro Tem election at least? On your side of the aisle, there was certainly a divided caucus during this. Your reaction to Senator Hagan's election to that position?
I think what we did was for the best interest of the Democratic caucus, our Democratic Party of the state of New Mexico, and for the best interest of the state of New Mexico. You're welcome. Thank you all very much for coming.